Okay. Hi, good evening, Cutler Bay. My name is Ralph Casals, your town manager, and welcome to our first annual open mic night. This is a place, nice, comfortable forum that we could provide, residents two-way communication with myself as your town manager, where you could ask questions. Sometimes I call it rumor killer. And I also provide a briefing to the general public of what are the different things that are going on with the town of Cutler Bay. So this is the first of this year, and we're also going to have another one on April 30th on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Tonight, we have some introductions. We have Mauricio Molino, our town clerk, working behind the scenes there. We have Rod Gibson working the Facebook Live, and we also have Julia Hoare, my executive assistants, working the microphone. So we have some folks here in the audience tonight, and we also have some folks virtually. So what I'd like to do now is perform some opening statements. We'll take some questions that we've had presented prior to the meeting. We'll come to the residents that are here in the audience, and then we'll go on to our Facebook Live. I'm very excited, to provide you the update. You'll hear me say over and over again that our success is truly a team effort. This success actually starts with my 5 council members and the mayor and council and vice mayor that sit up here. I have the privilege of working for, I think the greatest town council that in Miami-Dade County. Not only that, we have also the law firm of Weiss Serota, which we have Mitch Bierman, Chad Freeman, and Roger Poe as our town attorneys. And then also the other charter official we have is Mauricio Molino, who is the town clerk. Just a little bit of fun facts when I was looking at tonight, we're truly a contract city. We're 45,000 residents, 10 square miles, and we only have 35 full-time employees. 35 employees. We contract out our police department to Miami-Dade County Police, which I've said over and over again, the best police department money could buy. We also contract out our building and department inspection services. We also contract out our municipal circulator and our Go Connector we're going to talk about later. But one of the fun facts that I'd like to share with folks is that out of 35 employees, we have over 8 that have 15 years experience with the town, including myself. We also have another 10 that had 10 years worth of experience just within Cutler Bay. And we have another 4 with 5 years experience. That's 51% of our staff has over 5 years plus experience. That to me is a great continuity, great stability. And not only that, I think we have over and over again, we've developed great relationships and partnerships. These are just some of the folks that we deal with on a daily basis, from the mayor and council members, vice mayor, myself. From the federal level, we have Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar. We have from the state level, Senator Alexis Calatayud, Alina Garcia, and then I also call it our adopted senators. Ileana Garcia, who was our senator last year, got redistricted. And then Ana Maria Rodriguez, who's a senator just south of us in the Homestead, Florida City, in the Keys area. And then also we have another representative that was our representative last year, but due to redistricting, she was reshuffled, Demi Busata Cabrera. Those are a powerful group of individuals there, coincidentally all female, that are there helping us in Tallahassee. And that goes without saying. I mean, we certainly, truly appreciate that, appreciate their work. Going to the county level at this point, we're very fortunate to have 2 county commissioners, Danielle Cohen-Higgins, as well as Keone McGee. So we have the privilege of having 2 county commissioners out of the 13 that represent the town of Cutler Bay. Also, from the South Florida Water Management District. Okay, when you look at your tax bill, you see South Florida Water Management District. We have board member Charlie Martinez, who also represents Dade County and Cutler Bay as well. So we're very fortunate with that. And then also to the Citizens Independent Trust, we have our former mayor, Mayor Peggy Bell, who's also been appointed to the CITT Trust. So I think that's important to understand the different partnerships for our success. That's something that we just don't do this alone. In terms of some of the items that we've been publishing, I'm sure everyone has received this at home, the Cutler Bay, I call it the annual yearbook. Folks, this has been 15 years in the making. This is something we've been trying to do for the last 15 years. I think this is our first annual, I call this coffee table material, where here it provides you a nice little story of our journey, as well as all the contact information of the mayor and council members, contact information for our department heads, as well as our list of accomplishments that we have done throughout the year, and most importantly, where we rate in terms of our tax millage rate. The millage rate is a tax that we charge you per 1,000 units. And here's just some of the things that we're very proud of being one of the most efficient governments that we have is the folks that are ahead of us with lower millage rate, Doral, Aventura, Bal Harbor, Sunny Isles, Miami Lakes, Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest. As I take you through that journey, you're like, you understand those zip codes, and we're right there on the lower echelon of the millage rate. So that's something that we're very, very proud of. Mayor Mirabal has said it over and over again that about 2 years ago, the state legislature ranked the town of Cutler Bay as one of the most efficient municipalities in the state of Florida, in the entire state of Florida. Again, going back to that, 35 employees. So it's something that we're very proud of. Again, if you don't have a copy, please come by town hall, just give us a call. We'll be more happy to mail it to you. We have some in the back room. Also, something else that we're very proud of, our active adults program that we have. We have over 26 events throughout the year that we have with active adults. I think last week, I think they were at the Marlins game, and they'll go to the zoo. They have a lot of interactive yoga classes, financial information for seniors. So that's something we're very proud of as well. And lastly, in terms of my promotional books, is we also have what's called the town prospectus. This town prospectus, if you pick this up in your business owner, will give you a great indication of who are we as a municipality, what is spending habits, a lot of demographics, spending power within the town of Cutler Bay. So that's something we're very proud of. These books are all online, but again, I want to do a great commercial plug for that. Before I go on to some of the other items that we have, I just want to make sure from Rod, do we have any questions that were submitted before?
We do have.
Okay, if you could read them off, and then I'll take the questions from the audience, and we'll go to Facebook, and then I'll continue to talk. I just want to make sure that in case some people had to leave early, I just want to make sure that we capture those folks. I'll be here all night.
Yeah, so Alex Llanos emailed us a question. He says, I'm a resident living in the Isles of Bayshore in Cutler Bay. I would like to know the status of their proposed or approved senior living community that is supposed to be built on Southwest 216th Street. Any timeline and information on how to sign up to live in that community will be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that question. The property that's in question is located between 97th Avenue and 87th Avenue. We call it the 16 acres that is on the lake that's been empty for several years. There's a tarp fence around it because there has to be some environmental cleanup there. And I know that throughout the past years, there's been several attempts from developers to develop townhomes, single-family homes there. And most recently, the town council approved the development that included 196 two-story, I call for 55 and over adult living, just 55 and over adult living, not an ALF, not a nursing home, 55 and over. And then also included in that, we're very excited too, along that 216 corridor, there's a 30,000 square foot medical arts building and 4 other retail and restaurants that are going to be abutting 216 there. Another part that's really exciting for us is, as I mentioned, it's covered by 3 sides on the lake, abuts 216 and there's 3 sides. We were able to negotiate with the developer to secure a linear park along the edge of the water, all along the perimeter of the property, to be owned by the developer, to be maintained by the developer, and to be patrolled by the developer. It will be open from sunrise to sunset. So that was part of the development order as well. In terms of timeline, I know I spoke to the developer about maybe 3 weeks ago. They're going through the permitting phase. So they already have their approval phase. They're going through the environmental phase, and they're going through the design phase right now. So I know that they're very, very excited. They said, according to the developer, he's had a great deal of interest of different restaurants and medical arts doctors that want to be there as well. So again, that's something that we're really excited about.
The next one is a comment that we received. It's from Suzanne Tweet. She says, I have lived in the same home for 50 years. We have always been a bird sanctuary. It sickens me to see what has happened in Palmetto Bay. Slaughtered ducks, peacocks, and other wildlife. Cutler Bay cannot follow those footsteps. Please do not this happen in our town. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. I think it was just really more of a comment. So I could tell you that, from our standpoint, we're not removing any type of wildlife. I know that I've received emails regarding peacocks. The county did pass a code that if a municipality wanted to do a peacock management plan, they would have to develop the plan and then take it before the full board of the county commissioners to have that approved. Our council has spoken about that, and our position is right now that we're not going to have a position. It's going to just let them be there for now, and we're not we're not exploring any type of management plan for that, and we're also not removing any type of wildlife from our parks. Okay, next question.
Great. The last comment that we received is from Carmen Thomas. She says, I'm hoping that there is someone around the neighborhood making sure people are following the rules. I see homes unkept, boats in front of their driveways when they're supposed to be kept in the back, cars in the walkway, making it impossible for people to walk. My husband is in a wheelchair and struggles when he goes for a ride. Dog poop and people don't pick up. I thank you in advance for your help.
Okay, well, thank you for that question. I think when residents see someone blocking the road or they see something impeding the sidewalk, please give us a call. We have nights and weekend code compliance officer, as well as our police department will respond to those type of calls. I could tell you just in terms of number of open code compliance cases that we have, we created also a code compliance hotline that is manned and it's forwarded to the officer on duty. We also added last year what we call a nights and weekend code compliance officer. Just some quick stats: we have over 1,200 active cases for code compliance. 1,200 cases. We've taken over 138 to what's called the special magistrate, which is the judge, to enforce. We picked up over 850 for sale signs, buy your old house kind of sign, buy junk cars kind of signs, campaign signs throughout the weekends. We've actually, since our code compliance officer started the weekend, we have over 329 cases that folks or contractors that have been issued, warnings and or citations over the weekends and nights. And then we have out of that, maybe 150 of them will work without permits. So I think that having that weekend officer, and there's several stories regarding my weekend officer where he's mentioned that, he just kind of follows the concrete trucks around. He follows until they stop. And there was one story that he was kind of driving around until somebody was honking behind him. Hey, what's going on? Well, that concrete truck's supposed to go to my house. I have no permit, but it costs me money when he goes around. Well, you need a permit. So those are the kind of things that we're catching on the weekend. So he's out there, and also what I'm proud about is the after hours phone number as well. So, Rod, does that finish the questions?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we have some folks in the audience. I know we have Julia Hoare there. If you could raise your hand there, and if there's any questions there, please don't be shy. I'll be here, and if not, then we'll keep going with the presentation. Any questions? Question? Oh, right there. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Thank you, sir.
Is it working?
Yep.
And maybe you have it later in your presentation, but it's a follow-up along the lines of 216 senior living community. Just maybe an update on different development projects in town, in addition to what's been covered in recent town hall meetings or in your social media accounts that you guys posted the videos. But specifically, the mall redevelopment, any timeline updates, Franjo, and maybe even Marlin Road, with the funding situation there, if we're going to move ahead anytime. The new Publix, are we getting any vendors populating all those commercial spaces there? Because it's been kind of empty for these months since the opening. What else we have? I think what you call CVS Corner on Old Cutler and Franjo, no, on 87th, 87th. Anything else you can think of in terms of the exciting projects that we have and things like that?
Okay, well, thank you. So let's start with my journey. That was part of my, our journey. I was going to provide you the terms of development. In terms of the mall, we'll start with the mall. Okay, Southland City Place. And Sears has already, the automotive section of it has been already demolished. It's currently, the rest of it's going to be currently in demolition process. Once that section of the mall, the Sears and the automotive, the intent from the owners of the mall is to relocate the Ross to that wing. Once the Ross is relocated to that wing, the old Kmart and Ross building will be demolished. So you got Sears demolished, old Kmart demolished. That will be phase one of their mall redevelopment. It's approximately 480 units, but also it's going to include a lot of retail commercial in this phase. So what we know is going to be about maximum of like 8 stories. There's going to be a lot of water features. What I tell folks all the time, just think Meisner Parks meets Town and Country, right? With lake features and what have you. So there's going to be a lot of those lake features there. I could tell you that the mall ownership is spending several millions of dollars redoing the roof of the mall. So the mall proper will stay. Macy's will stay. They bought Macy's. Macy's is what's called the lease back. They're a tenant and they're leasing back. They're going through a lot of different shops and kind of either relocating folks or trying to bring folks in as well. So I know that's phase one of what they're doing. In terms of the new Publix, I'll try to keep in the order. In terms of the new Publix on Old Cutler Road, when we approved the development site, we said that the Publix, before Publix gets the certificate of occupancy, has to be built, as well as the 2 buildings. You got the one abutting Old Cutler Road and the one kind of facing east-west, you know. Right now, those storefronts are empty, but I know there's been a lot of activity regarding what's going to be there. But we know that we made them build those 2 buildings before they actually were able to occupy the Publix. What's more interesting also is that there's 2 other parcels that are the bookends right now that you see that those are 2 buildings that once the certificate of occupancy is issued to Publix and the owners, GCF Investments, they have 2 years to build 2 more out parcels, 2 buildings, 4,500 square foot, retail, restaurant. The council was very specific, retail, restaurant. If it's not retail, restaurant, Publix, who's the owner of the shopping center, except that little parcel, will have to come back to the council and request an amendment to the site plan. So I know there's been a lot of conversation regarding what's going to go on in those little R parcels, but I'm a true believer that building, they will come. And I think that we've gotten a lot of great feedback, a lot of different green elements that we received from that we had Publix do. For example, little subtle things that you'll notice, the concrete parking lot. How many concrete parking lots do you see around town? Part of that was part of our green incentive program, where it's heat reflectivity, right? Everybody's been on that hot asphalt, right? The heat reflects less on concrete or brick pavers, also with the little trellis as well. So there's a lot of architecture features there and green elements that are part of that development there. So we're really excited about what's going to be going on and the other 2 buildings, plus the art parcels that are coming, because we designated retail restaurant. I think you mentioned also the CVS on the corner of 87th and Old Cutler, right? That's a rumor. There's no CVS coming. So that's a no. I know, but I'm saying there's no development plan yet. I could tell you, yes, they tried 3 different times. So there's not an active application for that area there. It's 3.5 acres owned by Andre Stefano, the owner there. So we don't have an active site plan yet, but we always say, yeah, where they try the CVS, right? So that part we do have. I'll go with the developments. You know, that was part of my list, but we'll go with the developments. So we talked about the one on 216. We talked about the mall. The mall, again, we said all the time, it's a $1.5 billion impact, largest in the Southeast United States, billion impact. We know that part of it's being fed from the bus rapid transit that is being built there too. I call it the big honeycomb stations. That mall is going to be serviced by 2 stations, the one on Caribbean and the one on 112. And then we have 2 more stations on Marlin, as well as on 184, Eureka Drive. So Cutler Bay is fortunate to have 4 stops. In fact, at the last council meeting, the council sent a recommendation to the Miami-Dade County to call it Cutler Bay at Marlin, Cutler Bay at Eureka, Cutler Bay City Place North, Cutler Bay City Place South, to give that identity for the big mall redevelopment area there. So that's something we're really excited about. Right next to El Dorado, we call it the call center. Okay, the council approved over 700 units there, which are senior, workforce, and market, right on the transitway, which is the Marlin Station is going to be right there. And that was part of the incentive that we provided, saying, hey, if you build it right there, the density's there. They have changed zoning. It was always been 75 units per acre. And that area there is going to get redeveloped. It was approved. The site plan was approved by the council. A lot of public areas, a lot of amenities that are going to be there for the public. Right behind the Shell station, you got Boston Market. Across the street, you have the Shell station, and then right behind the Shell station, you have like an empty lot before the transitway. There was a 99-unit senior living facility that was approved a couple of years ago. They kind of been stuck with permitting in terms of the county because there's like they had to relocate a water main there. So that's another development that's coming, designated straight for seniors there. We have right next to the Tire Kingdom on 211th Street, the empty lot there. There's about, let me see here. There's about, it's going to be a 6-story building, approximately over 135 units there. There's going to be market rate housing there. Again, we make sure that there's a lot of public amenities there, open space requirements as well. So that's another one there. Yeah, so those are the large developments that we have coming. In terms of our 16 acres. Okay, you have right next to Publix. If you go by the Publix, there's a black fenced in area there. That's a town 16 acres. We call it the 16-acre legacy park. So a little bit of journey for that was on a March 25th, 2022, the town held a general obligation bond mail-in question. If you recall, we had over 23 public involvement meetings with the University of Miami, with different renderings at the park facilities. Myself and some of the mayor and council members went to individual HOA meetings and talking to the residents about it, where it was a $37 million for the purpose of developing a park, community center, and municipal buildings on that 16-acre tract. And thank you for everyone who voted, because we had over 65% approval rating back in March 2022. I keep going back to March 2022. I want to emphasize on that, because since that time, we then issued a request for qualification to have a design firm design, I call it the campus, the campus, 16 acres. And then in January, we actually shortlisted the firms. We went from 9 firms to 3 firms. The 3 firms, we then present the council, the firms presented before the council to select the one individual firm. And that was done on March the 15th. And then on March 23rd, 2022, just almost a year after we issued the bond, the town council selected Salt Mickelson Architects. Okay. It was based on their vision. Not only that, but also when we provided the bid package, we made sure that we had over 900 comments that you, the residents, provided us, as well as the feedback from the comments that everybody provided us on the University of Miami renderings and the 3D models that they had. So they had all that information. So now what are the next steps? Well, we just approved on April 19th, what we call master planning and programming phase, meaning that now is when we take all those 900 comments, we take all those comments from residents had from the University of Miami, and now we design one campus house together. And that's going to be within the next 8 weeks. There's going to be several meetings that are going to be occurring with town staff, with individual council members, with the council workshop, as well as two other public involvement meetings. So now we'll have a total of like 25 to make sure that we get all the different comments. So that way the council approves one plan, the campus, and that point, then the architects will come back with a cost to design that. So we call it almost like big blocks, in terms of what we're trying to do there. So we're really excited about that in terms of the 16-acre legacy park. We also have our 8.5 acres that we own right on Old Cutler Road in Eureka that received a $250,000 grant from the state of Florida to remove the invasives, and we're matching $250,000, so it's going to be a $500,000 project. And then we're going to start going into what's called another master planning. What do we do with that park? It's going to be a passive educational park. No ball fields, no athletic fields. It's going to be a restoration area continued on the 8.5 acres. There's something else that you hear me say the word master planning. We want to make sure that we master plan. So I hope I answered some of your questions. If I missed one, please let me know. No, Julia, hold on, because that way the folks online can hear you. I can, but I want to make sure the folks online can hear you.
Hello. Yeah. Since you mentioned, the concrete parking lot is better than asphalt, which I personally actually didn't know. That's great education. And you talked about the mall, some part of it staying. So what about parking in the town center, I guess, or city center, the mall project? I personally, few things that I hate more in urban planning than fields of surface parking. So, and I know as with Legacy Park, I'm sure you're still in the thick of it with salts about whether they can put the garage in. But is there a garage planned for the mall development at all? Especially with all the residential units?
Okay, so yes, the mall area will have parking. In fact, one of the things that we did about 3 years ago, that we increased the required open space in the town center district. So we actually increased the area that they needed to have as open space. So it's over and above any other zoning district there. So will there be a parking garage? Yes. Will there be amenities in the parking garage, like say a green roof or what have you? Yes, because there's bonus that they have. In terms of our 16 acres, our town hall, the council is very adamant to make sure that we have a parking garage. It does have less of a footprint. You could multi-purposes, you could use the roof for something, or you could use the bottom for something. But we know that in terms of the footprint for our 16 acres, is the rules of engagement are going to be that we know that we're not going to go beyond 3 stories. Number one, out of that 16 acres that we have, we've been very adamant that we're going to have about 4 of those acres. I call that town hall, community center, pool that we're going to talk about in a second, and police department, right? And then the rest, the 12, is going to be, park open space. That park open space will not be athletic fields. It won't be organized sports field. This is going to be a nice passive park. We're looking at having a water feature there as well, because if you follow us, we said that area is what's called a brown field, which just means that it's been farms for several years. And we want to make sure that we do the right thing, just like Publix did, is remove some of the arsenic that is on the soil, and also looking at having some water features there as well to keep that natural retention on site as well. So those are the kind of things that we know in terms of rules of engagement. We know it's going to be more park than government center. So hope that answers the question. Okay, thank you. We have any other questions from residents? Here you go.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment about the peacocks earlier. I understand, it's wildlife and stuff, but are you guys going to have some sort of workshop to educate the community on how to deal with non-native and invasive species? So you're not supposed to feed them and other things. Also, would you guys consider buying the lot on 87th and Old Cutler? Because I've heard that the developer was trying to sell it to the town also.
Okay, we'll do the peacocks and we'll go back to the developer, right? So in terms of peacocks, I know that when I receive information or just emails from residents, I just tell them there's natural alternatives, right? They don't like noise and they don't like anything that moves. Just a little simple, dollar store little wheel that kind of with the wind doing that. We tell people there's a lot of YouTube videos or what have you. I just don't know if there's going to be enough interest to hold that type of workshop. They are invasive animals, a peacock fowl, just like the ducks are, so we encourage people not to feed them at all. So again, if there's enough interest, certainly we could have some of the experts come down. I just don't know if there's been enough interest. The times that we've received calls have been very isolated, and I just been returning the emails. On number 2, the owner on 87th and O'Cutler Road, has he asked the town to buy it? Yes. He has. So right now, our focus right now has been, making sure that we keep on track with our 16 acres. And as we mentioned before, within 1 year, we ended up being the largest property on Cutler Road. We bought 16 acres when we call the land swap deal. The building that we're in here used to be our building. We sold that building in the lot next door to buy the 16 acres on Oak Cutler Road, public record, over $1 million an acre, $16 million. So it was our property, the equity in this building, the property next door, and $3 million cash. And we were proud owners now of 16 acres, which at that point, we took away 480 units development rights that could have been built there. 1, 2, the 8.5 acres we purchased on Oak Cutler and 1A4, that was another about $1 million an acre, that we purchased there. And we're going to make that an environmental park there, educational park. And then going back to the 8.5 acres on the owner, yes, we've had conversations with the owner. I just wish I had that much money. But are those conversations occurring? Absolutely. I just wish I had that much money. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure this is the right place and time. Is this where we talk about revising some of the rules in Cutler Bay?
Sure, it's your time. Tell us.
Okay. I'd like to address two of the things on the garage sale regulations in Cutler Bay. I know it's not a big deal for a lot of people, but it is for some. And the way that Cutler Bay's regulations for garage sales are set up, they're structured for failure for the residents, mostly because the residents don't know about it. One is the signage. You can only put, per Cutler Bay, 1 sign on my property and 3 signs on other people's private property with their permission. I live a couple houses on off of Marlin, so in a perfect life, I'd be able to put a sign that says turn here. I was told we can't do that because it's a traffic problem that people will drive crazy and silly, and having signs like that is not good. Having said that, my son lives on Franjo, so I could put a sign in his front yard that says garage sale, but not here at my address. So people would pull over, read that, write it down, and pull back on Franjo. That seems more of a traffic problem than an arrow pointing to my house. I think that there should be a way to have more signs out. The second issue I was told was because of garbage and trash and things, and you addressed that earlier about keeping the signs of roofing and we build houses and all that stuff out. The Cutler Bay regulations on garage sale already list that we have to remove our signs within the day of the sale. Having said that, we're already covered with that. So I suggest that Cutler Bay allows a person having a garage sale, perhaps 6 signs, 10 signs. It says 20 to 22 inches on public places, like perhaps on places like signs, corners and things, with the understanding they have to take them out after their sale. Because, you don't want them there. It's trashy. In Cutler Bay, if all the residents had a garage sale on the same day, we'd have a problem with signs. It ain't happening, so there's not that many. And having said that, I know we're not Palmetto Bay, but Palmetto Bay also requires you to register to have a garage sale. Cutler Bay requires this, but most people don't know. If you register, you get a registration number. They say do it at least a week before their sale. I think that's tight. Palmetto Bay says Wednesday before a Saturday sale. In return for this, they have a website on Cutler Bay. You can pop on, it says current sales, and it lists all the sales in Palmetto Bay that weekend. It's a perk for registering and pulling a permit. And on people's signs in Palmetto Bay, it has the permit number. And I've seen people say, oh, we don't need a permit, that's terrible, and And most people agree, no, it's a good thing. It keeps people from having garage sales every weekend. It also keeps, gives you this free advertising. It's a good thing. Somebody was complaining on the Nextdoor app, they had a garage sale last weekend that somebody took down all their signs. They thought it was a spiteful neighbor. Perhaps it was code compliance. I don't know. But as our regulations are listed now, you can get fined for every sign. And I've known people in the past who have got fined for signs and lost money on their garage sales paying these fees. I think they're too stern. I think they're too tight. I think that, we've already covered ourselves with asking people to register and pick up their signs. And again, I don't think an arrow pointing to turn here for a garage sale is going to cause any accidents in a neighborhood that's deemed 30, 35 miles an hour. It's not like you're going from 80 miles an hour to a screeching turn onto Sterling. You know, it's not going to happen. When Cutler Bay was formed, the garage sale regulations, it was such a mess, and I tried to help a coworker navigate it, that I actually went there and helped you all rewrite them because they were silly. But having said that, again, people don't understand. They don't know about pulling a permit. They don't know that they can't put signs out. And so people like them, they don't like them, I don't know. But, you know, they're good for a community. People get together, it's recycle, reuse, whatever. I wish that we would redo those 2 points.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. And yes, it was probably us that picked it up. Anything on the swale, we pick up on the swale. In terms of the sign regulations, a couple of things that I picked up on. I love the idea that our neighbors are doing, that they post, here's what all the garages are going on in town. I'm gonna do one even better. Forget about the traffic. What we've been talking about internally is let's pick a Saturday. Let's for the discussion, but third Saturday of the month, come to Cutler Ridge Park, bring all your stuff, and it's just one community garage sale. So I mean, I know I've seen the shaking hands, but I'm saying those are the type of things we're looking at. You kind of avoid that traffic, number one. Number two, yes, we do have regulations for the number of garage sales we have, because just like you said, you have people that got fined for signs. I find people that have a constant garage sale every Saturday as a business right out of their homes. So I like some of those ideas. That's why we have, you know, some of the council members that are here in the audience, the rest of the council's listening. It's a policy decision at that point. But I think the incentive or the bonus, the reward would be that if you register your garage sale, it's easy enough for my communications manager, Rod, and his expertise, that we could say, hey, upcoming weekend, here's the garage sale sign. But again, we've had internal discussions of having community garage sales at one of our parks as well. That way it's one centrally located place and regulated control, because how do I find Cove and Santo Street, right? I mean, there's a lot of little streets that people don't know about, and you're gonna have 8 or 9 signs from Caribbean trying to find Cove Street, for example, you know, or April Street. So again, that's great conversation and great feedback. But we have the mic again. Sorry. So you could, no, hold on. They want to get you. No, but not for the folks at home. I can hear you, but not the folks at home.
But having said that, you said we can find people and code compliance picks them up for that sign, the signs. I wish we would lose the mentality of finding people for putting a sign out. Not everybody goes on Facebook or Marketplace or whatever and sees these signs, you know, these things. And having a sign right there on pick a corner that says garage sale at this address, I think it's more friendly. I don't see what the problem is. Slapping somebody with a fine for doing it, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't. And again, if the reasoning is that you don't want trash on our corners, I don't want it either. I don't want the we buy car signs and everything, but you already have a regulation in Cutler Bay and the rules that say signs have to be removed the day of the sale. So there shouldn't be a problem with the garbage. So there's no other really good reason not to allow signs.
All right, let me do some maybe retread my comments. The signs are not allowed in the right of way under no circumstances. Real estate signs, I buy car sales, or garage sale at Ralph's house, they're not allowed in the right of way. We pick them up. We treat them as trash and back of the truck to the dumpster. Real estate companies follow us all the way to the dumpster. The signs that we have fined since I've been here the last 15 years have been signs that have been nailed to trees. Nailed to trees. If you could tell me an address that we find a sign because they put too many signs out, please, I'll be more than happy to. You know, Julia is my executive assistant. She could provide you my number because I cannot remember that. Nailing them on trees, absolutely. $250, irrevocable. Sign nail on a tree. That's where we find, but I haven't seen one before on that, but we're more than happy about it. This is a great feedback that we like to get in terms of garage sale signs, but we have talked about a community garage sale or what have you, because that way it's centrally located. But again, you know, they can't be on the swale. All right. Any more questions from the audience inside? Oh, wait, we have a couple more. Okay, great.
Hi, good evening. I am a resident of Cutler Bay and a property owner for the last 27 years. So I've seen a lot of changes in the city. Following her comment regarding the sales, the garage sales, there are some neighborhoods that they do like once a year, like a big sale. So maybe that's a suggestion to do in Cutler Bay, like once a year, like, I don't know, one date a year, one Saturday, everybody can do garage sales.
Yeah.
And maybe that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Number two, I wanted to ask you, maybe it's a good idea for the community to have markets, like other cities, Palmetto Bay, Coconut Grove, farmers market. Maybe a good idea would be to rent that space on 85th Avenue and Old Cutler to the owners for the community to do farmers market, or maybe something like that, ¿no?
Mm.
Y la otra cosa era.
Medical.
And the other thing I wanted to ask is why there's so many medical centers, oncology, like they're popping left and right. So many, I mean, there should be an equilibrium. Maybe there's too many to my taste, too many medical centers. I understand people need health assistance, but Cutler Bay has been like, oof, too much. Maybe we should be called Cutler Medical Bay
Okay,
soon.
I'm going to try to get them in order. Okay, so we're saying the same thing. I think you're saying once a year. I think it should be like 4 or 5 times a year that we should have a community yard sale. I'm using that number, but not once a year, right? I mean, everybody loves cleaning. Spring cleaning is like 5 times a year, right? So number one. Number two, in terms of the medical centers, I think what you're referring to is like, say, the medical clinics have the little vans that they park out, right? Because I mean, I've heard anybody say that we have too many doctors in Cutler Bay. If anything, somebody's building a 30,000 square foot medical arts building that wants to fill it up, with medical arts type of doctors, right? I always tell people, you know what? When's the last time you've gone to the doctor? It hasn't been in Cutler Bay, right? So again, you got to, where we drive to Kendall, what have you, have these folks come here. So those things are coming in terms of medical arts building. The second one, Julie, help me. What was it? The second? No, the farmer's market we talked about maybe 4 or 5 times a year, having that, the farmer's market.
Farmer market.
Oh, okay, sorry, the farmer's market. Yeah, thank you. The farmer's market, in fact, if you've been following us, the 16-acre park that we're building on Old Cutler Road, one of the intended purposes there is to have a nice big courtyard to have a farmer's market. But I think even before that, we've had some conversation internally to try to do something like that at Cutler Ridge Park. The success of a farmer's market, guys, is the shade. Again, the success is the shade. We could sit there and do that at Lakes by the Bay Park, and within 15 minutes, everybody's going home. No trees. You got to have the canopy. I keep hearing people say, oh, but Pinecrest is beautiful. I want that canopy. Give me that Pear Jungle old canopy, right? Pinecrest Gardens, and give me that canopy, and we can have a garage sale there for 5, 10, 15 hours. So one of the things that we're trying to do is experiment that. Believe it or not, we talked about it internally, about doing that at Cutler Ridge Park, like where we do our food trucks events there. In the middle of the day, you could have a farmer's market. And we actually talked about having like a little healthy cooking class as well, for a lot of the local area markets that come there as well. So we talked about that internally to see how it's going to work out for when we put that on our 16-acre, our own home, which is there. We tried it over, privately, they tried it over on 87th Avenue and Old Cutler Road, and we had to shut it down. It became more than a farmer's market. Traffic, it became, some other stuff that we didn't want. It was unregulated for us. So we want to make sure we want to kind of test it out at Cutler Ridge Park. So we get a preview for what it should look like, because that was one of the ideas of the 16 acres, to use that as a farmer's market as well, and garage sale. Okay, I think we had Kevin. This is great. Thank you for the questions, guys.
Okay, here it comes.
Let us go.
Okay, over a year ago, you guys promised you're going to resurface my street.
Mhm.
Really didn't need it, honestly, didn't need it at all. But you said you're going to do it, but of course, never did until now. So like the last couple of weeks ago, can you please promise me the person that's going to resurface it is not the same one's building the bridge on Caribbean?
All right, so thank you, Kevin, for those questions. You guys must be looking at my notes, because you looked at Caribbean Boulevard Bridge. But let's talk about the resurfacing. So no, Kevin, we didn't pick the road in front of your house because you're Kevin. I guarantee you that. Number one. Number two, it was also not only road resurfacing, it was also repairing a sidewalk. Okay, that contract you see there, at one point, we went after their performance bond. What's that mean? In bureaucrat words, we were going to have to go some legal proceedings after them. So we were able to negotiate for them to come back, finish that road. Because not only you, I got our friends that live on Cutler Court just as well. And in fact, that one there, when they did what's called the milling, where they chew up the road and they get ready to put the asphalt on Cutler Court, folks that are living on Cutler Court, if they're watching online, they actually even have it worse, because when they chopped up that road to put the layer, there's so many dips and what have you that it needs a correcting course. Believe me, my guys just told me about 20 minutes ago how much it's going to cost, So I think that, are they going to come back? Yes, they are. They're actually, if they did the milling, they did the sidewalks. So your area, as well as Cutler Court, those two areas are the ones that go within the next 2 weeks, they're going to be resurfacing. Now, thank you for the other question, Corinne Boulevard, because that was one of my things here. Corinne Boulevard is not a town project. And repeat that, it's not a town project. It's a Miami-Dade County project. In fact, in this council, in the council chambers here, we had the head bridge director, right, from the county, provide an update to the council. There's been problem after problem there with the soil samples, you know, when you get to put these borings down and what have you there, that they were delayed. So right now, the new opening date is going to be December of this year, December of 23. That's, again, keeping our fingers crossed. That is a stormwater project. If you understand how the canal goes, it's kind of like an hourglass. And the bridge is fine. Let me say the bridge was fine. It's just the flow of the water of all the folks that live just north there by Franjo and the Bel Air area and the Belmont area. There are all those canals drain into that C100 canal that then it's a pinch point at Corinne Boulevard, then it opens back up south of there. So this bridge is going to be widened. Old Cutler Road's not going to be widened. It's going to still remain 2 lanes, okay? Because that was another thing that we had to deal with before. And that bridge is going to be completed by the county's contractor in December 24th. So yeah, that's been delayed, and we actually had the folks here presenting before the council why the delay. So we got the road and we got the bridge, but they're not the same contractor. The road in front of your house is town contractor. The other contractor is the county contractor. So okay. Then we had one more question, Julia, right here in the front. Oh no, right. Okay. Yep. Let her go one time. Then thank you. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi, you mentioned a pool over at Legacy Park. I don't think, but that was in the original bond initiative. So that's something new. Is it replacing the one that's over at Cutler Ridge Park? Or is it being added to it?
Okay, let me talk about the pool for a second. Oh, unless you had another
I
question.
do have one more
Okay,
thing.
go ahead. Let me write this down. Go ahead.
With this development that's happening over on 216th with the medical arts building and the 55 and over residential complex. Have you taken a closer look about the flooding issues to the entrance of 216th on Old Cutler Road? Because this is going to get really bad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you guys are looking at my notes here. I swear. Look at this. I mean, look, zoom in right there. No. Okay, so let's talk about the pool. The pool has been a hot topic, literally hot, because the heaters aren't working and the cooler's not working for over close to about 8 months, to the point that last month, the council approved an expense of $64,000 to put in the geothermal heater cooler at the pool at Cutler Ridge Park, number one. Number two, leading to that, we had a discussion that we actually did a pool assessment that we wanted an outside consultant. Just tell me about the pool. Tell me something I don't know, that it's old. We know that, 1950. We understand that. We know that it's not regulation. We understand that. We know it's not deep enough for water polo. We understand that. So the consultant said, look, in order for you to redevelop this pool, long story short, it's cheaper to build a new one. At that point, and again, American Rescue Plan, talk about that in a second. Part of the federal stimulus package after COVID was, you'll hear me say ARPA, another acronym for bureaucrats, right? American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. Within that ARPA, based on our population, the town received $21 million. Okay. You had all the agencies had a one-time to move $10 million to what we call general fund, miscellaneous. Let's call it miscellaneous. The other funds was the original intent, which was for water quality improvement projects. We call that stormwater. Okay. Fiber optics, right? Or water, sewer projects. Well, we're not in the water and sewer business, right? The fiber optics, we decided not to do that, but we do have a lot of drainage issues. We call them water quality treatment, because when you're treating they're treating the discharge before it goes to the bay. So with those funds, we said 21 million, 10 million to general fund, another 11 million and change for drainage improvement projects, which all those projects we took from our stormwater master plan. And we just didn't pick it because say Kevin lived there, we just picked the drainage projects that we know that were identified. And we were able to fund every single one of those projects. Every single one. When I say funded, meaning they were designing it and now it's currently under design. So that means that from our stormwater master plan, we have done everything from our stormwater master plan to the point that we're updating the stormwater master plan to study more neighborhoods. $10 million on this side. 800,000 repair sidewalks throughout the community. 800,000. Another 64,000, we mentioned about the pool. The $64,000 pool heater chiller that we decided when we had a town council workshop, we had a workshop with the presentation. We said, you know what? We know it's going to be at least 40 years to build our 16 acres. So let's go ahead and use that as a stopgap measure because you're able to relocate that system from there to a new pool, the geothermal system. In that discussion that we had with the council and the consultant, it was decided at that point that we could use funds from the $10 million general allocation to build a new pool. I, as your town manager sitting right there, told the council, this is the only time that you're going to get a grant to build a new aquatic facility. And I recommended that we go ahead and do that. It's going to be somewhere in the $7 to $8 million. You're absolutely right. It was not part of the original bond. It's not being paid by bond money. It's being paid by ARPA money. So that was something that I told the council, this is the only time you're going to get that. Another thing that we're doing with the $10 million is you'll see next month, preview, we're changing out on Bel Air Park and Lakes by the Bay Park, our two parks. We're changing the lights, retrofitting to LED. Another eligible criteria for the $10 million. Other part that we're also doing is we did the sidewalks, we're doing the pool. Something else that I always get griped about as well is why can't we pay park reservations or alarm or occupation license online? Right? I mean, there's something I get all the time from residents. So you guys are probably the only place that I got to still mail a check for a burglar alarm, false alarm, or what have you. So we actually committed about $1 million to upgrade our computer software program, which is also eligible under the federal stimulus, which I also told the council, you're not going to get this grant. You're not going to get a grant for computer software. That's just part of doing business. But I think what we could do there is I challenge my town staff. When I challenge my town staff, and they're probably going to start laughing because most of them are online tonight, is why does somebody come to town hall? To do what? Why can't they do that at 3 o'clock in the morning? Not that I want people to stay up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but why do you have that? Why can't we be more efficient? And we challenge ourselves to that. We did a study. We brought in a consultant to do a study. Kind of the same thing we did with the pool, right? To tell us that, yeah, your program's old. Okay, we know that, but we wanted to go ahead and go through the bidding process to get something there so we could renovate the program. So I'm glad you mentioned about the ARPA, because I talked about that in terms of the pool. Southwest 216th Street. You said, I think it was just environmental items there on 216? The flooding, okay. The flooding on the entrance to 216th Street. In fact, now we're going to my little roadway improvements, but I'm going to just talk about that and I'll have some other questions there. Southwest 216th Street, if you recall, between 97th Avenue and 87th Avenue. They did the work there, right? I said, that's great, but the area that really floods worse is on the other side. So from Cutler Road to 97th Avenue on 216th Street, that area there, we have been working with Miami-Dade County. 216 is a county-owned and maintained road in our town, but their road. We actually work closely, and thank you, Congresswoman Maria Salazar, because she actually provided funding to the county based on that project within the town of Cutler Bay. And that project, believe it or not, has already been designed. It's been permitted, and the county is now going through the bidding process because it has to meet a bunch of federal requirements to do the bidding. And no cost to the town. And no cost to the town. That's going to probably be, I think my last estimate they saw was like 1.3 million or something like that in terms of putting in the drainage. Now, sometimes, I mean, the mulch that's there, we got to just figure out what to do with the center medians there, so there's going to be completely redeveloped that whole area there and the curbing, storm drains there as well. So that area there is already getting repaired. It's getting repaired. Okay, any other questions? Oh, yes, so follow-up question. Thank you guys for the questions.
The playground in, I was at Bayshore Park. What's the timeline on that? And also, and I noticed in Matter Bay Academy, they're doing some restoration projects there. Is that Matter Bay's work or the county, or what's the plan? I know that Matter Bay wants to increase their students to like 3,000 eventually, and they submitted for traffic studies and all that to the county, since the county owns 87th Avenue. So any comments on that?
Sure. Okay, so I think the park you're referring to is the Lakes by the Bay Park, right? The Lakes by the Bay Park, that park has had a fence around the playground equipment there. At our last council meeting, we put out a bid to redo the playground resurfacing, trying to use some of that federal stimulus money. Bids came back, one bidder. It was like $400-something thousand. We said, nope. I sit there and rejected the bids at the council meeting. Told the council, let's reject the bid. Allow me to go ahead and just get 3 written proposals to get that surfacing redone. And right now, I think as of this afternoon, we were waiting for the 3rd proposal, and the cheapest one so far was like about 49,000 and some change. And that contractor said he could get it done within 2 weeks. That's at Lakes by the Bay, not Alza Bayshore. Alza Bayshore is a different street. That's the U community, I call it. I just want to make sure, because I don't want people living in Alza Bayshore. What playground? No. Lakes by the Bay, there. Matter Bay Academy. I was just there last Thursday, speaking to Brenda Cruz and Rayner, who's the environmental consultant there. What they're doing is that they're removing invasive trees there. All that stuff you see is a bunch of Brazilian peppers. And they're there with the survey markers, and they got a permit from there to remove all the environmentally invasive trees there and start maintaining the wetland that's around the border of their school. What you see them doing there is what we're going to be doing soon on 87th, on 1A4 and Cutler Road, our 8.5 acres, removing all the invasives. So it looks like they're taking down a bunch of trees. All those trees need to be taken down. And I was literally there with the Principal Brenda Cruz, looking at it with their consultant there with the GPS and making sure, and Durham folks were there as well. So that's part of their wetland mitigation program that they're doing. Matter Bay Academy. Like you said, do they have room for 3,000 students? Sure. Do they want 3,000? Sure. Are they going to get it? No. They're not going to get it. They came into the town council. We said that based on the traffic, as you recall, one of the first things that Mayor Mirabal did when he became mayor was enact a law that says we, the town, do the traffic studies, not the developer. We always said the running joke, when have you seen a developer come into a traffic study and say they can't do it? So they pay us, we do the study. When Matter Bay Academy came, they did the study, and we said you could only go up 140 something students. Folks, there's 1,300 on the waiting list. 1,300. Fact find, call them. 1,300 on the waiting list. We said, nope. The only way they could have actually done that with our consultant was widen 87th Avenue. Tree request in 87th Avenue is actually a dike. It separates the fresh water and the salt water, believe it or not. So they would have to widen it. Obviously, they're not going to do that. So right now they are capped to the enrollment that they have right now. They have to certify it to the town, but do they have that many waiting lists? Yes. So that's something that we made sure that we held their feet to the fire. Okay, question, yes, and then line, you give me some folks on. Oh, there you go.
Okay, police story. What's the deal with the golf carts? Are they allowed on section lines like Old Cutler and Franjo? I know they are on the off streets. And you have all these kids on these dirt bikes and pocket rockets and ATVs, and the police is there. Now, I got a ticket about a month ago with no license plate. And I go, how can you give me a ticket when everyone else has a license plate and you don't give them? Why was that? Of course I beat it, but.
Okay, well, all right. Well, I was going to say, thank you for the ticket payment, but if you beat it, then you beat it, right? You didn't pay us. So I think that in terms of the golf carts, we have looked at enforcing, and they have done it, because I've actually had folks call and say, hey, my son got pulled over on the bike path on Old Cutler Road, and I have to go pick him up because the cops don't let him get back in the car and just go 3 blocks home. I'm like, no, you can't. So, I mean, I remember I get all the calls, right? So I think that, number one. Number two, knock on wood, we've had very few minor accidents with golf carts, but I know that, I mean, our police department is back there in presence now. And I know that they pull folks over there. I mean, our biggest thing is that, we're the ones that actually went up to Tallahassee and changed the law for golf carts. 2-lane highway, 30 miles an hour. That's the criteria. So you could traverse a county road, but unless it's that you can't be on 216th Street, there's certain places of 184 that you can't be on as well. Huh? No, I know, but I'm saying those are the ones that our police department will have to step up their enforcement effort. That's just an enforcement effort. It's like somebody telling me, hey, you know what, they're speeding on this road. Okay, well, then we put the speed trail out and see what times they're doing it. So I know that in terms of police department, they are out there enforcing it. So again, we try to make that as an educational campaign. I think our first rollout that we had with our 2 street legal police golf carts was an Easter extravaganza, that we had our police department roll out the 2 golf carts we had. A lot of it's part of the educational campaign, making sure that all this different safety equipment that is there and making sure that residents do that. And we also have, we're very popular holiday golf cart, 4th of July golf cart parade, as well as a Christmas golf cart parade. And we use those areas as well for education as well. So I think, we're trying to do as much as we can. What? Hold on, I'm good. I got to pick you up on Facebook. Sorry, guys.
I just thought if you answer the question will be obvious, but what's the minimal age for kids to operate the golf carts? Because sometimes you see they're just so young.
It has to be the same age as the driver's license. In fact, there's some state
Okay.
law right now going through the legislature to try to increase that age as well. So I know that's right now in flux right now, but I know it has to be the same type of age for a restriction. Okay. All right. Rod, do we have any questions online?
We do.
Okay.
Rick Jacobo is asking, his question is really long, so I'm going to summarize it.
Okay.
The resident is concerned about sound ordinance laws and the growing amount of Airbnb as short-term rentals in the community by 87th Avenue and 184. He has installed impact windows and other measures, but the noise is unbearable. Neighbors and himself have tried to speak to the Airbnb owners, but to no avail. The resident is asking if we have plans to update, modify, or enforce the sound laws more often.
Okay. When I get those type of calls all the time, I say, when it's happening, call the police department. They're a 24-hour operation. You call, they'll go out there, they create a record. And once we create that record, we go after that Airbnb as what's called a nuisance neighbor. But you got to create that record. So, those are the worst things that I hate. That like somebody say, oh, well, a week ago. No, call that same day. They'll go out there. If they have to go out 4 or 5 times, every time you call that number, it's a recorded and they log the information. It's a different case number. So that's what I hope for that. In terms of Airbnb regulations, unfortunately, the state of Florida has set those parameters there. So even if we want to prohibit it, we can't. So all we could do is go after the noise. I think somebody mentioned, parking on the sidewalks as well. Any type of, those type of calls, call 3054 police number. I tell people all the time, they'll keep going out there.
The next question, I think you already addressed it, but you can reiterate. Charles Gant is asking, I live in Cutler Bay, and I was wondering, well, when will the bridge in Caribbean be done?
Yeah, December 2024. So it's the only good thing is that we were very adamant with Miami-Dade County for them not to close it. I could tell you originally, and I'm glad Kevin's still here. Originally, the county said, "Well, we could finish much." You're not going to close Caribbean Boulevard. I'd rather have it longer than that, because we all know if you close Caribbean Boulevard, we're an island. You cannot move. Their ideal plan was originally, let's close it 9 months and we'll finish it. I'm like, nope, no. So again, because you know how it is with government, right? The 9 months turn 12, 12 to 15. So we understand that. So we want to make sure they kept it open. They kept it open. In fact, at one point we were getting calls that how come they weren't on site, because they had to do some reboring samples or what have you. So yeah, that's something that it's going to be one of those things that when it's done, it's done. In fact, some of the folks remember our journey when we did Caribbean Boulevard. When we did Caribbean Boulevard, by the way, remember it was a project we did with the county. And at one point here at public meeting, right, because been here for 15 years, they actually said, well, let's finish the bridge. Then after that, you could do Caribbean Boulevard. Like, I'm not going to wait for the bridge. And we're already kind of done 2 parts of the Caribbean Boulevard. So
The last comment we have right now is from Mark Morin, and you kind of addressed it already. It's like he would like an update on the park and pool.
Okay, I think we talked about it before. I think in terms of, in terms of the park, let's go into my little cheat sheet here in terms of parks. We talked about the Lakes by the Bay resurfacing. I also want to talk about Bel Air Park, the building on Bel Air Park. If you see something along that building, see a big old red sticker. We have condemned that building. It's an unsafe structure. Okay, and if you heard us talk at the council meeting, we're actually looking for type of state funds and federal funds to demolish that building. The building is literally separating. There's sunlight coming in where there should be coming in, you know, separating. So it's an old building, again, kind of like the pool back in the 1950s. So we understand that. So that's something that you'll see that building get redeveloped. We talked about the Cutler Ridge Pool. And I also want to take one more shout out to our parks folks as well, because we've actually added more part-time service aides because we've seen as an uptick in park usage, especially after COVID, you know, meaning that the one employee had a part-time worried about 6 parks, can't keep up, you know? So we've added more part-time staff as well. So I know that we're actively recruiting. Rod, I know that you put in on social media that we're actually recruiting, you know, employees there. So that's great. Any other questions, Rod?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, well, let me go through some of the roadway projects. We'll keep that theme. Frangio Road from 184 to Marlin. That's going to be almost a $10 million project. We received Cutler. Frangio, yeah, from 184 to Cutler. Is that what that's going to be that stretch of road? We call that a complete streets project. What's that mean? Bus pull-out bays, brake pavers, drainage, lighting, bicycle lanes, similar to what you see on Caribbean Boulevard. That's something that we received a grant from the county for $8.8 million. The design's already done. We're just waiting to get the last Durham permit, and then it's going to go out to bid. It's going to be our project that we're managing on behalf of the county. Really excited because there's going to be 2 traffic circles. The most obvious is Frangio and Cutler Ridge Drive, the famous intersection that needs to get completely realigned. Believe me, I know the owner of the house that had the bus go through his house and 2 cars through his house. So I get the calls. I know him personally. Okay. But then there's also going to be, I call it the bonus circle, Gulfstream and Frangio. On a sunny day, you can't make a left. Right. So that's going to be another circle there, where that area there is going to give us opportunity, because then we're going to close that little section of road, and folks that live, I want to say 18 something there, you know, it's going to be a nice little pocket park amenity there, you know, that's going to be there on Frangio Road. Caribbean Boulevard, we talked about the Caribbean Boulevard. There's another section on Caribbean Boulevard that still needs to be done. I call it the J, on Caribbean Boulevard from 87 to 184. It's kind of like a little J, right? There, we received a grant for $1 million from DOT, and the town will contribute the rest. And that's going to continue the theme that we have on Caribbean Boulevard along that stretch of Caribbean Boulevard from 87th to 184. Southwest 82nd Avenue, our friends that live on Old Cutler Glen, then that area, from 184 to Old Cutler Road, another north-south connection. There, we received a grant, $800,000 grant from DOT. And that's going to have a traffic circle on Southwest 188th Street and 82nd Avenue. There's going to be a traffic circle there. And there's going to be drainage and sidewalk improvements there as well. Because if you know, along 82nd Avenue, you have those cul-de-sacs. When you see the cul-de-sacs, they're like this. They're kind of like leaned in like that, and they're lower than the main road. So we're going to fix some of that flooding there as well. So that's going to be a combination of federal stimulus funds that we talked about, as well as $800,000. So you can see us leveraging some of that grant money to make that improvement, and without having to touch any of our funds as well. That's 82nd Avenue. Whispering Pines Park. Very active park, except the park where you park at the parking area is like a dust bowl there, right? So we're going to have a whole complete roadway resurfacing there, sidewalks there. I think there's even a crosswalk there that ends up in the middle of the tree, you know, if you know that neighborhood there. And we're going to have brick pavers there to make it a pervious area there, and resurfacing that area around the school and around Whispering Pines Park. And that's something that it's already out for bid. We talked about Southwest 216th Street drainage project. Marlin Road, we're very excited about Marlin Road from US 1 to Old Cutler Road. Another connection, another big complete streets type of traffic circles, drainage, lighting, same thing as lighting on Frangio Road. That's one road, this road here. We've done a great job. We received a state appropriation last year from Senator Ileana Garcia in the amount of $500-something. And then our town staff, our public works staff received another grant for $480,000. So it's like a $900,000 to do the complete design of that roadway. Not only that, our federal lobbyists work closely with Congresswoman Salazar that we've already secured $4.4 million towards the construction already. So we're trying to, get ahead of that. That's going to be another road recorder. So if you think about it, the history of our town, I think somebody said, been living here 20 years since incorporated, Old Cutler Road, Caribbean, Frangio, now Marlin, all of our major connectors are being completely redone. So that's something that we're really, really excited about. We talked briefly about the American Rescue Plan that we talked about, and also want to talk, since I'm on this roll, but with grants. Last year, we received over $1.8 million from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. We call them FDEP, just another acronym, right? $700,000 towards the wetland restorations on 224 and 97. There's 53 acres back there, 97 and 224 there that we've been talking about. Well, I think the Parks Advisory Board, I think back in the day when Vice Mayor Callahan was on there, they've been talking about doing that wetland restoration, kind of like a little bird sanctuary. $700,000 we received from the state, and we, the town, are matching 700. So it's going to be $1.4 million. That's going to complement the $37 million Cutler Bay Flowway that's there for this comprehensive Everglades restoration, the CERT project. You saw the big groundbreaking there the other day. So that's something that's really, really great for us. C100B Canal, Southwest 92nd Place between Sterling and Tiffany. There's that little bridge there that was closed a couple of days ago. There was a sinkhole, that little connection there. That's the C100B Canal there. We received $750,000 grant, and the town's going to match another $750,000, so it's a $1.5 million to stabilize the canal bank. It's kind of erodes at that, where it kind of bends. It starts eroding there. So we're gonna do a nice canal bank restoration project there. $250,000. If you may recall, the property that we mentioned on 184 on Old Cutler Road, the 8.5 acres that we purchased, $250,000 grant, and we matched $250,000 to remove all the invasives. So what you see going on Matter Bay, you're gonna see that over there 10 times. Because I think there's only maybe like 11 or 12 trees on the 8.5 acres that actually worth saving. The rest are invasive trees. So that's something there. And then another one that we just received was $125,000 for development of a vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan. How to deal with sea level rise, how to deal with our vulnerable facilities. What I like about this project here, it's a master plan. It doesn't have a match, so we got $125,000 from the state. We selected the consultant in the last council meeting to do the work. What I like about that is that it's going to create a project list, a project bank. Remember we talked about the stormwater master plan, how it created projects in neighborhoods? That's how we start chasing those grants. So with this master plan, it's going to identify different areas that we need to have hardening. 16 acres that we're getting ready to develop there, right? And we know that's going to be our command center, has to be built to a critical facility. So it's going to be at least 3 feet above the FEMA regulations there. These are the type of projects that could be identified in the master plan, and we could seek any type of state or federal funding. Briefly, I know we have 15 minutes. Anybody use our GoConnect service? If you heard me talk in front of groups, government Uber, free government Uber. That's what that is. You download the app. It's GoConnect anywhere within the town limits. It'll drive you around. It'll drive you around. And we received a grant from the DOT for $193,000 for the next 3 years. Actually, we're in the second year already, and we're actually applied to extend it, and we've actually applied and won the grant, but it's not going to be effective, I think, November this year for weekends and extended hours as well for the on-demand. So if you haven't used it, please use it. It's secure, it's safe. Go onto our website. The mayor's done a couple of promotional videos that we filmed. Video cameras, microphones, and it's tracked by GPS, and folks have learned how to use it. Our town circulator, if you've seen our town circulator, kind of shrink wrap like a trolley, we received a grant for $300,000 to have a second one operate as well. Because right now it's kind of like a train. It's like 45 minutes kind of goes around, right? So you got to wait. But now when we have a second one during the peak times, it's going to be less wait time. So that's something that the second one actually got into service on March the 20th. So we have the second one actually rolling out. Same scenario. The Go Connect and the circulated bus are both operated by Miami-Dade County. We pay them just like we pay them for our police department. We pay the transit department for that through our grants for that. And it's tied into our grants. Couple other pieces of information. Our flooding. I think we mentioned about flooding. During our last council meeting, we were presented a certificate that we are now what's called a CRS Class 3. What's that mean? 35% discount. 35% discount to your flood insurance. Folks, we're only one of 11 in the nation. One of 11, and there's 1,500 cities that operate in that program. We're only one of 3 in the state of Florida. So if anything, remember today, go home and see if you're getting a 35% discount on your flood insurance. I know Rod is getting ready to do a big press release, regarding that. We had a big presentation by FEMA in the state of Florida, presenting a certificate. And that's a lot of great work that's been done by our public works department, our consultant. And again, we're very proud to say that, we're only one of 3 cities in the state of Florida and one of 11 in the nation to provide that 35% discount. And we all know what's going on with the state and different insurance carriers forcing you to have, flood insurance. That's something that's a little hidden benefit, for our residents. If you have any questions or don't understand it, please give us a call. I've seen it where our public works staff has spoke to residents. They weren't even getting the discount. They had the agent had the wrong city number there. So again, that's a free service that we can provide you. And those are real dollars. I think the last thing I think we said was going to be like close to $300 a year of individual savings. And for the town total, it's almost $2.4 million. And that's before some of the state insurance carriers make you mandate that you have flood insurance. So that's something that we're really proud of. A couple of awards that we also received from the American Public Works Association. The Florida chapter, Alfredo Quintero, our public works director, just went up to Jacksonville and we received Visualscape, one of our contractors, our landscape contractors, received the facility and landscaper of the year for the entire state of Florida. The entire state of Florida. So that's a great accomplishment for us. Not only that, we also received consultant of the year from Stantec, one of our consultant engineers, for the design of the Cutler Ridge Section 3 Drainage Improvement Project, which is right off of Anchor Road, Blue Water, that whole area there that we just completed. Let's see here. Boy, no, we're doing good on time, huh? We're doing good. Okay. That's everything that I have from my standpoint, but I know if there's any follow-up, yes, keep them coming.
In all the road projects, one piece missing is the timelines. If you could maybe mention, I'm interested in Franjo and Caribbean and Marlin.
Okay. So in terms of what's missing, there's no timeline yet because we're going through the bidding process. So I could tell you if I had to guess a timeline for that to award the contract and vet the contractor with the county, because a joint participation agreement. So the county has to vet them as well, making sure they'll have different criteria there. I would say that the Franjo Road is probably from the time that you break ground, that you see some activity there, I would say about 1.5 years, 2 years. And then the Caribbean Boulevard, since it's also in the bidding process, around the same time. Marlin Road is further out because Marlin Road, we don't have a design yet. So those are the two. So what we're trying to make sure that with the timing is that you have Franjo and Cutler Ridge, that little J section, Cutler Ridge, not happening at the same time. But again, it's a timing issue because we receive grants for both, and those grants have timelines and strings attached to it that we got to comply with. So I would say by the time that you see a shovel on the ground, I would say about 1.5 years. Oh, we have a question here, dude. Okay.
Thank you. These funds that you've been talking about, the stimulus funds that are funding some of these projects, Do we know if those are on the chopping block up in Washington for this debt ceiling fight?
I know that there's been discussion about that, but I can tell you from Cutler Bay, we're gonna spend every penny. I mean, the funds that we have, they have been what's called encumbered, or they're being accounted for. Okay, I mean, again, the ones that we have designed, I mean, they gotta design it before we bid it, right? And then the other ones for the $10 million, we already know that we're gonna go through the design phase now with our journey with our Salts Mickelson, our architects, for the aquatics facility on the 16 acres. But that's been some conversation, but I guarantee you, I think we're not gonna have enough, in Cutler Bay. So I know that we're gonna use it all and leveraging that money as well. No, you're not gonna lose it. No, I think we're gonna have more. Yeah. I'll put it this way. The mayor's been very adamant. Both the mayor and myself met with Senator Rick Scott, and that was one of the first topics that Senator Scott spoke about. And we said, we're not going to be in that category because we're spending every single penny. Because a lot of cities are having a struggle what to do with it. And so, just also, I had it in my notes, but anytime that I spend funds from the federal stimulus American Rescue Plan, it goes before the town council. Two things. The council knows what's going on. The public knows what's going on, and the town attorneys confirm that it's an eligible expense. So that is all part of what we do behind the scenes. So every penny is accounted for with a resolution. Kevin, and I know we have 2 more questions online, so I want to make sure we capture those folks.
Hey, real
Okay.
quick, a Publix manager told me that the Sears that's getting knocked down is going to be a competitive grocery store to them, a high-end one. Do you know who that is?
Not yet, but I know it's going to come.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's not a comment. I mean, I know it's coming. That was part of the master plan. There's going to be that, a possible hospital, entertainment. Those are the kind of things that is part of the city center, as I call it. Don't know anything until, only time we know something is when somebody comes in for an application. But yes, ma'am.
Clarification, are golf carts allowed on Old Cutler?
Yes, it's less than 30, the sections are less than 30 miles an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 2-lane highway, 30 miles an hour. So I know that sometimes we get a call, and I know you're gonna give me the bunk here, but I know that sometimes we get the information, why aren't golf carts allowed to Black Point? Black Point's 35. Black Point's 35. So Rod, I know you had a couple questions, and I would, go ahead.
Yeah, we have 2 questions.
Okay.
Barbara Quokley, is it possible to get some kind of traffic warning signage on Caribbean, which is where the ongoing bridge project is located in front of 2 largely populated townhouses? Let's not wait for someone to get hurt. It hasn't happened yet, but we know traffic warnings, it probably will. Thank you for listening.
Okay, and I know exactly where those, it's Cutler Creek West there. And in fact, if those folks know, if they recall, several years ago, I went there with our public works director and met with the homeowner association, where they wanted a signal, a traffic signal there, and it didn't warrant, meaning that it didn't meet their criteria of a traffic signal. So what we were able to negotiate with the county, if we recall, on the Korean Boulevard, there's 2 little speed signs, solar signs say, slow down, hidden driveway. When the bridge is completed, there'll be signs saying hidden driveway, but they don't meet that requirement for there. And I know that, please have them talk to their HOA, because they have the minutes there when I went a couple years ago. Okay, next question.
The question is Arturo Escribano. Is there a way to limit the abuse on the Connect service, since some residents are using it as a private school bus?
Right now, if you're within the town limits and you're, older than, what's the age? 16 years old, you could use it. It's a free service. We don't ID people. They pick you up. It's a geo map. And you can live here, because I know we've had some complaints that say, well, residents live on the other side of the road. They kind of cross the road and then call. I'm not going to get to the point of IDing everybody, because it'll just never work. It's based on that system. I could tell you in terms of school bus, go in front of the Cutler Bay High. They figured it out. Senior centers, they figured it out. Why wait for the circulator 45 minutes? Right? Just get on there and go. In fact, some of the seniors have been asking me, why don't we go outside the town limits of Presidente or Black Point Marina? So that's something we're working on now, but they figured out, it's amazing. Even the circulator bus, morning time seniors, afternoon, the kids from the high school. So again, parents have kind of figured out, how to just have the kids get on the Go Connect, and they don't have to even worry about staying in the traffic. It's a free service. Next question. Oh, that's it. Oh man, we got 4 minutes to spare. This is great. Well, Thank you, folks, everyone for coming. Again, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be uploading this video to our YouTube channel. I also want to thank the mayor and council. I know that there were a couple were here and a couple were watching. So again, the comments about the garage sale signs, that's a policy decision that they can make. And I like some of those great ideas that came out in terms of the garage sale signs, in terms of the projects, so we'll get those projects done. And I think we gave you a good clarification in terms of some timelines for the projects. And again, if you think about another questions, please feel free to, email me or just call us at Town Hall. Again, my team is there. You see Julia Hoare there, my executive assistant. It goes literally from the front desk to her to me. If I could take the call, I'll take the call. And some of the folks in this room know that, test me. I mean, I'll take those calls. So thank you. And also thank you, Rod and Mauricio for managing the online, Facebook there. And again, we look forward to having this session again in August. But again, you don't have to wait for August. You simply just give me a call and provide you the information. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of the Mayor and Town Council, thank you. Have a great night. Thank you.